Good afternoon, everyone. It's very clear, and we all know, that Maduro is a vile creature, ruthless in the way he treated the people of his country. There was an election which he lost, and so he's an illegitimate leader of the country. It's also very clear that our military performed excellently in the execution of the assignment they were given by the President of the United States. It is not clear what comes next. It does not isn't clear how Venezuela becomes a democracy, which it can be, which it has been. And the president even threw the recipient of the Nobel Prize under the bus and now supporting Maduro's vice president, who's by some accords more ruthless than he. I know of this because I visited Venezuela when Chavez was there. He was horrible. He was horrible. I thought he couldn't be worse, but Maduro was worse. So this isn't about any regrets about him, and it's with praise for our military. But it's hard to accept any judgment on the part of our Secretary of Defense. Since this administration has been in, 37,000 people have been dropped from the Veterans Administration. And now they're announcing that 37,000 more will be dropped. I mention that because many of these workers at the VA are veterans themselves. And I don't trust the Secretary of what he says war. It's about defense of our country. That's a big difference in the word. He was the head of something called Concerned Veterans of America, some made-up name. For 20 years, I had meetings with 35 congressionally recognized veteran service organizations. His organization came in one day with some plan. We said, you're not certified, you're not at the table, that's it. Because their goal, as funded by the Koch brothers, was to privatize the VA. So while we praise the work of our military in this operation, let us be mindful what it means to our veterans if we're going to privatize it. And that is what he did as the head. That was his goal as head of the Concerned Veterans of America, whatever that fake group is. He was dismissed, as you know, for various reasons, which I won't even go into, but it was about incompetence. And now he's the Secretary of War. So when we go to a briefing and he's part of the presentation, it's very hard to come out with any respect for what has been said there. And again, Maduro's a crook, a thug, ruthless. His successor, the vice president, same thing. Our troops are wonderful. Let's not create a war that produces more veterans when you're in a place where you're firing people at the VA and wedded to moneyed interests that want to privatize the VA and make money off of it. I have no respect for the values that were presented there.
Madam Speaker, you've seen a lot of these administration official briefings over the years. Do you feel lied to by this set of briefers, this administration?
Well, I really can't talk about what's in there. You know, I have 30 years of intelligence leadership as the top of the committee, a member, a leading Democrat, and again, a gang of 8 for years. So I really can't speak to what has been said in these meetings, what my judgment is of what they said, but my judgment of who they are is what I was talking about.
The reason I ask is because many of the members have come out and said, well, I feel that they're lying to us, or at least they're not being honest. And I guess the question is, for administration officials like a Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense who are lying to Congress, what is the recourse for them?
Well, it's not a question of lying, it's a question of withholding the truth. Many things are true, but the complete picture is not always there. And they have their sort of funny way of brushing things off. But I'm not even going into the process of the fact that they have engaged our military in something that they haven't come to Congress for. But what I will go into is that we have yet to hear from them, and I'm not going into what's been in there, but we have yet to hear from them what the cost of this operation was. And what this is about oil, this isn't about drugs. If this were about drugs, he would not have pardoned Hernandez. It's about money in Honduras, and it's about money in Venezuela. It's about money in Argentina at the same time as they want to withhold health care funding for people in our country. So let's get back to the kitchen table. Let's not distract with all the rest of this. If this were truly about drugs, we would have serious funding for treatment on demand in our own country. That's the way to reduce drug use in America.
Madam Speaker, let me ask you a moment from a constitutional and a former speaker perspective about war powers. The idea that, Congress has some powers here, the president has some powers here. The current speaker has ruled out, saying, we don't need to be involved, meaning Article 1. What's your take on that and your response to Speaker Johnson saying there doesn't need to be a war
Well, I
power?
didn't hear what he said, but I think that Speaker Johnson and we have a friendly relationship. This is nothing personal, but it's very patriotic to say that they have abolished the Congress of the United States and have just said to the president, what do you want? Here we are. They're seeing a change in that because they're seeing the unpopularity of some of their policies, whether it's the stinking, lousy, dirty, rotten, which in their eye is beautiful bill that they passed, and it's very unpopular. You see it with what they're doing, withholding subsidies for people who need health care in our country. You see all of that. So it's because that's what the president wants. But the fact is, and this is not, I think, as far as the American people are concerned, they want to have their needs addressed. Whether they care about if and when Congress was notified is important to them, but it's more important to us because that's our responsibility, our respect for the institution, the separation of power, which was the beauty, the exquisite beauty of the Constitution, Chad.
Is he ceding too much power to the executive branch?
Absolutely, positively.
Detail.
Yes, well, name any subject. Name any subject. Look at a tax cut for the richest people in the country and not wanting to have subsidies for people with health care. Now, the list goes on and on about how they have just millions of people off of Medicaid, $500 billion out of Medicare. The list goes on and on. You know what the list is. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that the current acting president in Venezuela might be just as bad as Maduro, even more so. Why do you think that the U.S. government is putting their faith, at least in the moment, in her, and why is that your assessment?
Well, first of all, it's not my assessment. It's the assessment of the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. That's what she said. It's more ruthless under this person. It would be more ruthless under this person, and they're already seeing evidence of that. So I'm just quoting the person of the party that won the last election, but nonetheless, Maduro was declared president. What was the second part?
It was that, why do you think the administration is
allowing money. It's oil. It's about oil. It's about money. Follow the money every time. Follow the money in Honduras. How can you say this is about drugs when you've freed Hernandez and they say, hundreds of tons of drugs have stopped now from coming into the country? Well, that's exactly 400 tons of drugs came into the country by Hernandez. He said he was going to shove up the nostrils of the gringos. So it's about money there, all kinds of different money in Honduras, and it's about money in Venezuela.
Follow up about the money, a question about the money. What is your understanding about where the proceeds from the oil that the U.S. is seizing will go? Meaning, will it go to the Treasury or will it go somewhere else?
Well, that's a question you'll have to ask the administration because we keep hearing different things. So you'll have to ask them what that question is. But the fact is that this could have been something quite remarkable if it were to restore democracy and self-determination to the people of Venezuela. Maduro, again, a crook, a creep, ruthless, terrible. His vice president, the same thing, following the footsteps. When I went to see, I'll just close with this, it might interest you. When I went with Sonny Callahan, he was the chairman of Foreign Ops and I was the ranking member. We were going to Colombia, to Haiti, we visited frequently, and on the way we went to Venezuela. We visited Chavez and his place. And what was interesting and insightful to me, as far as Maduro is concerned too, is you would think that Chavez was the present manifestation of Simon Bolivar. Big paintings of Bolivar, his books, his swords, all the rest of it embraced by Chavez. This, and a Gurkha thug and all the rest of it, but nonetheless seeing himself as Simon Bolivar, and so is this guy. So in any event, there's real problems here. We have our own problems in our country. We want the president to focus on meeting the needs of the American people. And we don't know what the cost is of this, and we don't know where the money is going. But we do know is that we're going to have a vote tomorrow to present these pass these subsidies. I think there's been some good bipartisanship involved in that now in the Congress, and we look forward to a successful vote for the people tomorrow. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.